Let's mix them.
Bring the meeting to order of the Wilmington City Council for this busy day that we're going to have. We're going to do a roll call first. Mayor Pro Tem, are you here? Mayor Pro Tem? Councilmember Rivenbark, are you here? Councilmember Anderson, are you here?
Present.
Councilmember Barnett, are you here? Councilmember Spears, are you here?
Present.
Councilmember Waddell, you here? And the chair is also here. We've been asked to go into closed session to begin the meeting. We will then reconvene here, but let me, I'm going to have to go into a motion to enter into a closed session. Do I have a motion? We have a motion made by Councilmember Barnett, second by Councilmember Rivenbark. Write this down, okay. Okay, how do you vote, Councilmember Rivenbark? How do you vote, Councilmember Anderson?
Aye.
How do you vote, Councilmember Barnett? How do you vote, Councilmember Spears?
Aye.
How do you vote, Councilmember Waddell?
Aye.
And how do you vote? Right here, the chair is aye, and I will read now the closed session minutes. Is there a motion to enter into closed session for the provisions of General Statute 143-318.11, A1, A3, A4, and A5 in order for the City Council to prevent the disclosure of information that is privileged, confidential, or not considered a public record pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 132-1.4. 2, to consult with and provide instruction to the city attorney regarding potential legal claims, including the cases of the Funk Yard LLC versus the City of Wilmington, file number 21 CVS 2790, Schroeder versus the City of Wilmington, file number 19-CVS 4028. 3, to discuss matters relating to the location or expansion of industries or other businesses, including potential economic development initiatives. And 4, to instruct staff regarding the city's negotiating position concerning the possible acquisition of real property. The closed session will be held in the city attorney's conference room. At the end of the closed session, the council will reopen its public session and return to the council chambers. And with that, we will now go into closed session.
Mr. Mayor, just so you know, Mayor Pro Tem is actually across the street waiting for council.
Okay, we are back from closed session. Council provided instruction and guidance to the city staff. No other action was taken. And now, since we're back in the closed session, I will have to do a meeting roll call. Mayor Pro Tem, are you here? Present. Councilman Rivenbark, are you here? Councilmember Anderson, are you here? Councilmember Barnett, are you here? Councilmember Spears, are you here?
Here.
And Councilmember Waddell is absent, and the chair is here. So we do have a, so we'll start off with the agenda briefing. C1 is approval of the minutes. C2 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an engineer's master on-call contract task number 2 with WSP USA Incorporated in an amount up to $492,794.87 for professional engineering services for the downtown trail / Phase 1 design. C3 is a resolution authorizing city manager to enter into a professional services agreement with Premier Staffing Solutions in the amount up to $208,488 for temporary staffing assignments for the Community Services Department.
Mayor?
Yes.
On this one, I don't know who would be the ideal contact, but Tony includes, so in other words, whatever the pay of, if I got my calculator out, looking at, say, the first one or the overall one, we could do that. 5,000 hours times that hourly rate is some number, and then 40% on top of that, which is what the staffing agency is going to make, is the total.
Correct.
So we're just having that much trouble hiring people that we're paying. I mean, the math works out good for us here to pay a 40% commission.
Is Ms. Beatty in the room?
Okay, well, it's just,
Yeah, the short answer is yes, sir.
wow, okay. Because 40%'s got to be a whole nother human. I mean,
Well, remember that we also have to pay benefits on top of what we pay, so it's not a clear 40%. We've got to pay 4.5% on 401k, 11% on.
so it goes to the staffing agency, they're not, no benefits.
Correct.
So it's not really, it's not a job.
It's a temporary assignment.
Okay. All right.
Is this something that's been ongoing? I mean, I know during the pandemic and what have you, we had problems, but, you know, this council went to great lengths and taxpayer money to get our rates up or our hourly wage up, and we're still faced with this kind of shortfall.
There are
hiring?
certain professions, certain positions that we're having difficulty. Tree trimmers, heavy mechanics, sometimes labor force. Yes, we are.
Any questions? Okay. Number C4 is a resolution authorizing the award of a construction contract in the amount of $657,000 to TD Your Construction Company Incorporated for the Hawksbill Drive Embankment Roadway Repair Project. And C5 is a resolution ratifying amendment number 4 and authorizing the city manager to enter into an amendment number 5 with Sam's Landscaping and Maintenance LLC in the amount of $36,480 for landscaping services and ground maintenance of 8 city-owned properties. Public hearings. PH1 is an ordinance amending the official zoning map of the city to rezone property located at 3939 Carolina Beach Road from R15 Moderate Density Single Dwelling District to MD17 High Density Multi-Dwelling Residential District. PH2 is an ordinance amending the official zoning map of the city to rezone property containing 2.76 acres of land located at 703 and a portion of 701 Military Cutoff Road from R15 Moderate Density Single Dwelling District to O&I CD Office and Institutional Conditional District to allow 2 office buildings with a total of 21,200 square feet. PH3 is an ordinance amending the official zoning map of the city to rezone property containing 0.84 of an acre of land located at 271 South Kerr Avenue and 4515 Greenway Avenue from R10 medium-density single-dwelling district to R5 CD medium-density mixed residential district, conditional district, to allow a 4-lot residential duplex subdivision with a maximum of 8 units. PH 4 is an ordinance amending the official zoning map of the city to rezone property containing 1.57 acres of land located at 206 and 208 North Kerr Avenue from R10 medium-density single-dwelling district and RB regional business to R5 CD medium-density mixed residential district, conditional district, to allow a 2-lot residential townhome subdivision with a maximum of 15 units. Ordinances. 01 is an ordinance making supplemental appropriations in the amount of $40,000 to the Special Purpose Fund for the creation of the WPD Law Enforcement Museum at Police Headquarters, utilizing $40,000 of North Carolina drug tax revenue, and this was continued from our August 16, 2022 meeting. Then 02A is an ordinance making appropriations of $5,330,062 to the Parks and Recreation Capital Projects Fund for the Encino Sports Complex. Yes, sir.
Back to 01, I mean, I know there was some, remember, there was some concern about that project. Has there been any changes, add-ons, anything, or is it just as is exactly from last time?
It is as is exactly from last time. If you'd like more detail with regard to the purpose to which these funds can be spent, the police chief is with us and can give you a little more detail on that.
Well, we can probably wait till the actual, till the council meeting, I think. I was just curious, sometimes these things come back and y'all have,
Yes, sir.
y'all have massaged them a little bit or something, but it's as it was.
Essentially, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Ravenbart?
I mean, I think there's a little bit of confusion as to how the drug tax forfeiture money is spent.
Yes, sir.
And it's not as though it's just money coming in that can go in the general fund and be spent willy-nilly. So would you explain that?
Chief Williams, would you come forward? Give us a little education on this, please.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chief.
When the General Assembly set up this drug tax, it was in the late 80s. And basically, if you are in possession of controlled substances, you're supposed to pay taxes on those substances. So when we go out and we make an arrest, if the amount of narcotics that we recover meets a certain threshold, there's a form that we have to fill out and report to the state. And it's not something that we voluntarily do. We are required by general statute. We have 48 hours to report. If it's over 42.5 grams of marijuana, 7 grams of drugs that are sold by weight, and 10 dosage units of drugs that are sold by dosage units, and it goes by certain gallonage of alcohol, and then there's some other liter requirements with alcohol. So basically, the state goes in once we fill this form out, and we're done with it after we complete the form. It is a civil process between the individual that was caught in possession of the narcotics or the alcohol and the state. And once the state recovers this money, 25% of it goes back to the state, and 75% of it goes to the state or local law enforcement agency that was involved in the investigation. And these funds can only be used for law enforcement purposes. You cannot use them for other general items. And I think people are under the impression that these funds can be used for anything, and they cannot. The statute is very clear, and then there's some additional guidance that the state put out about 10, 15 years ago, making it clear that it's for law enforcement purposes.
And I guess, Donnie, that's one of the comments that we've been receiving as council members from people in the public. Unfortunately, people think that once that money, we receive that money, that we can do with it whatever we want to do with it. But we're obligated by state statute, by state law, that this is the way the money has to be dispersed, and we have to abide by that law.
Correct, and if I miss something, John can jump in. But at the same time, Mr. Mayor, we have been very conscious on how we have used these funds. Since 2020, I can tell you off the top of my head, we used some of it to extend our PAL program through an opportunity with Link Incorporated to do CDLs and the line worker course, which I don't know if that ever came to fruition. We purchased chainsaws, which we used during Hurricane Isaias. We've purchased equipment for PSAs. We purchased a trailer for our officers to rest and recover in. And if you've been out to any community events and you've seen that big community engagement trailer that we serve ice cream and popcorn out of, that was purchased with NC drug tax funds. And Ralph was also very conscious of what he used those funds for also.
And Don, correct me if I'm wrong, we have a lot of artifacts that the police department currently has in its possession that are police-related, obviously. And you want to use this money to be able to display those artifacts. I'm sure some of them have deteriorated to some point, and I know there's some concerns there as to where they are, and they're probably in some locale, and they've been transferred from the old station to the new station and where they're moved at in the new station. And I know that you're trying to build a culture there where people that are coming into the department understand the history of the department, which I'm for. Could you give us a little bit more background as to the artifacts that are currently in the possession of the department and why this is important to you?
Absolutely. We have artifacts that actually date back to the 1800s. One of them is a hat that was worn by a Wilmington police officer in the 1800s. And we have artifacts from that time period up until modern times. We have one of the BMW motorcycles that we took out of service about 4 years ago. So we have that motorcycle. It will be displayed also. What we're doing here is we're not building a space for Wilmington police employees. We want the public to come in and view these artifacts. I put together a committee about 4 months ago, and they have been working on ideas on how we can improve upon our community engagement. Basically, we want to start from the lobby of police headquarters, and one of the things that we're going to do in the lobby is we have this atrium. We want to put artwork up in the atrium. We've already had a local young man that is autistic, that is an artist. He donated an art piece to us. That's one of the first pieces that's going up in the atrium. We want the police department to be a place where people come in when they're not under arrest, they're not there because they've been a victim of a crime or they're getting an accident report. We want them to come in there and interact with us. What the vision is for us to bring together our community and our police officers. We're going to build a space around the Blue Room. I would like to see us host community events there. I want to see school groups go through there. I want this to be a place for learning about each other and growing together as a community. This is what this is all about.
Well, and I know the community policing has been one of the hallmarks of the department now for quite some time, and you want to really step it up where we're having more engagement and interaction with the community, where the community can come into the department and have meetings and being able to open the facilities. That's one of the things I've always said. We have these great facilities, not only the police department, fire department, all the fire stations that we have around town, and even this great building that we have here this is the people's buildings, and we want the people to have access to them so they can engage and see how their city works and how government works. Because civics, unfortunately, is not taught in school the way it was taught when I was growing up, and that's a long time ago. But I do like the community engagement that you're trying to instill here, and I think it's very important for the community and for the city.
It is. You have challenged us to think out of the box, and there's not too many police departments around that has done anything like this. So we're going to be one of the first. And again, we want to be innovative on how we get our community into our station. And when I say community, I'm talking all 51 plus square miles. We want all of our residents to come in, interact with us. I can envision Wednesdays are my community engagement days. Some Wednesdays, I may be there leading the tour myself. So that's what we're trying to achieve.
And I know in the aftermath of the George Floyd incidents in Minneapolis, this was one of the things that we talked about was more community engagement between the police department and the community, so the community has trust in our department and that we can interact with the citizens so they understand your process and procedures as to what you do and be able to ask those questions. And I think it's a marvelous idea.
Thank you.
Thank you. Question?
Yeah,
Yes, sir, Mr.
you
Barnett.
just answered the question I had written down was, have you seen this anywhere else in the country? And
Yes, they exist in other parts of the country. There are a couple of them. They're normally standalone buildings. There are a few police stations that actually have them in. But looking at North Carolina, I think we saw part of one in Raleigh at their training academy. and there was one other. But this group of employees, they have really done some research, and they gave me a presentation week before last of what the final product would look like, and I walked out of the room impressed with the work that they put into this.
Okay, thank you. I like thinking out of the box.
Going back to Clifford's point, and I think me and Clifford had the experience of going to the FBI headquarters and looking at their museum there, and looking all of the hard work and all of and the things that they do, which was outstanding. I mean, I would, that's what I envision here is for the community to understand exactly what you folks do, which y'all do a lot of work out there, and have to make sure that we have that community engagement so that young people can also maybe think about a career in law enforcement too, which I think is a great thing for our community.
Yeah, that's part of it. We want to inspire and we want to recruit. And part of this came from when I visited the International Civil Rights Museum in Greensboro. They actually had a small tribute in that museum to the Greensboro Police Department, and that's kind of what got the wheels turning for us to do this.
Okay, very good. Any other questions?
I don't think it's definitely not something that's going to hurt our image. I think it's something that really will enhance what we do, as, you guys do as police officers. So I'm in favor. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Okay, O2B is a resolution authorizing the award of a construction contract to TA Loving Company for the Encino Sports Complex in the amount of $12,491,700. O2C is a resolution authorizing a professional services contract change order for construction administration and environmental services to the John R. McAdams Company Incorporated in the amount of $403,667 for the Encino Sports Complex project.
Mayor?
Yes, sir, Mr. Reinmark.
Tony, I see Amy's not here, but I'll ask you. These three items total up just south of $20 million. Can you explain how those three different numbers plug in? I mean, could you help me on that?
Mr. Moten?
Thank you, Tony.
Matt? I'm sorry. Didn't realize you were still here.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Can you please repeat the question, sir?
Well, we're just shy of $20 million. How are we doing with our budget, what we allocated for it, what was in the bond issue, and where we are with moving forward? It's a lot of money.
Yes, it is, sir. So with the appropriation of the $5,330,062, that does include the additional money needed for construction administration, environmental professional services, and also the award to the contract for construction.
Okay, and
12 million.
Let me ask you, is it the, go ahead.
In 2C, the $403 million, that's for environmental, do they overlap? Is that a subset of 2B or?
No, sir. That $403,000 is included in the O2A.
What is the subset?
It's part of the $5,330,000.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Okay, it doesn't say that.
yeah. Because we thought it was extra. It looks the way it is here, it looks like it's an extra. But it's part of the $5 million, correct, Tom?
So the total project cost is not 20 million by adding that up. We already had a certain amount budgeted. The Parks bond was 10 million. The total of the project is 16 million and a little bit over that. And we needed to appropriate additional $5 million, which is what you see referenced to bring it to the total budget amount. And so the total project cost, you may recall a presentation a couple of meetings ago about that project, is $16 million. And it's important to note that well over about 30% of that cost is what you would see below grade. So a significant cost driver is the site prep, drainage and so forth that has to be done. But that is the project cost.
Tom, my question is, I know that on that particular site, since it was an old landfill, the state was involved in some of the remediation of that particular site, and they were going to take a certain amount of dirt out of the site and backfill it with clean fill. Is that over and above?
Yes, sir. So, that was as I recall, and unregulated landfill many years ago. The state did remove a certain amount of layers through their program and then put clean fill. However, as you can imagine, with any construction project, they still have to do site work, drainage, foundations, and so forth. So there's a significant preparation that has to happen, as well as infrastructure, improvement of the roadway. There's water and sewer that has to be brought in off of 421. So there's quite a bit of expenses beyond the player experience, if you will.
But going to Charlie's question in respect to, the cost of this project has increased significantly over the last, since that bond was passed.
Right.
Is that due to construction costs per se?
It's a combination of a couple of factors, Mr. Mayor. I would say inflation is a part of it. The other part of it is, if you recall, our scope for the project was enhanced. We really wanted to make it a multiple player field. We added lights to it. We've got a center field that is turf. We had a sponsor come in with $1 million, which was Encino, over a period of time. So we've actually transformed what was envisioned to be essentially 4 bare fields into being a destination, amateur sports destination.
So the one field is going to be a field turf, so it can be used for
Championship field.
football, anything besides soccer?
It's soccer, it's football, it's
Lacrosse.
lacrosse.
Rugby?
Yes, sir.
So, I guess the 16 that's hopefully an all-in number.
We have a contract.
Is the
and that's all-
Encino money above that or
It's
part
built
of that?
in as part of that. Yes, sir.
Okay, so O2A, B, and C, you can add together A and B, is that correct? But C is part of A, subset of A, correct?
2A makes up the gap in where we currently are to bring it to the $16 million in total. So we had,
Well, if you add 5 and 12.4 and 5.3, we're at 7.18.
it's going to be 16. The contract with TA Loving is 12.4 to almost 12.5. That's construction. There's some other costs that we'll have in addition to projects. Construction management is a big part of it. Plant, permitting and so forth. So the total cost, again, is going to be 16. The exact number is worth retrieving. I just don't have a recollection of it right now.
Okay.
And
Mr. Moten, if you will allow us, if we can get you a breakdown on the cost, the 5.3 million is adding to the existing budget, then the 12.4 and the 403 is coming out of that budget. Let us get you a breakdown prepared for tonight so that you will have that and better understand what the total cost is and what's coming out of that budget.
Be great.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. Our resolutions, R1 is a resolution declaring Wilmington Fire Station Number 6 located at 3939 Carolina Beach Road as surplus property to be donated for the public purpose of providing affordable and/or no-cost housing to members of the Wilmington community. R2 is a resolution authorizing contract amendment number 5 for the 2021 annual needs stormwater infrastructure drainage repairs and rehabilitation project in the amount of $2,422,500 with New Pipe LLC, Mount Pleasant, South Carolina stormwater capital improvement budget. R3 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to apply to the North Carolina Office of Recovery and Resiliency for gap financing to support the Starway Village Affordable Housing Project. R4A is a resolution revising the home ownership pool underwriting guidelines. R4B is a resolution authorizing additions to the home ownership pool, better known as the HOP program. R4C is a resolution adopting revised housing rehabilitation loan program, also known as owner-occupied housing rehabilitation program underwriting guidelines. R4D is a resolution authorizing the revisions to the City of Wilmington rental rehabilitation incentive loan guidelines. And then R4E is a resolution adopting the City of Wilmington down payment assistance guidelines. Yes, sir, Mr. Reinbart.
Would it be possible for Suzanne to come up and
Absolutely. Suzanne?
Thank you, Mr. Cottle, Mr. Mayor, members of council, Mayor Pro Tem.
Let me just ask my real brief question first
Sure.
before you start. This is something that you had a hand in, and this is streamlining our plans and policies to expedite them and make it more readily available for the different categories listed here.
Yes. The Loan Review Board actually is making the recommendations for these improvements and revisions to our current guidelines. And if you'd like, I have a presentation and I can walk you through in more detail.
Yeah,
Okay, all right.
I'd like to hear it.
So yes, as I mentioned, these are from the Loan Review Board, and back in the summer, they worked with staff to look at all of our various loan programs and make some recommendations to you, and they voted at their July 13th meeting to bring all these forward. So they've had a busy summer. This is a list of the members on the Loan Review Board on the various categories that they represent. Currently, Matt Hilliard is the chair of that board. And as you all know, the Loan Review Board's purpose is exactly what they're doing today, is to review our loan underwriting guidelines and our program processes and procedures for all the city housing loan programs, and to bring you recommendations. They also make recommendations on specific loan modifications that come forward for loans that have been made that the borrowers request a modification for any number of reasons. And they monitor the loan fund performance, delinquencies and things like that. They recommend loan approval to the city manager for the owner-occupied loans. We might also refer to that as housing rehab loans. And for the chair sits on the HOP Loan Review Committee with the partner bank representatives, and they make recommendations for those loans as well. And we report to them on all of our various loan programs. So the recommendations that they're bringing forward, they're looking at a number of factors. As you might imagine, the increase in the cost of housing. And we know that year over year, just this last year, is a 20% increase in the average cost of a single-family home, about 10% for townhomes. Also, the increase in construction material and labor cost, and supply shortages that are impacting all construction. The need to preserve our existing housing stock is also a consideration, as well as the opportunity to fold in our new housing counseling program more into our existing programs. So that's basically what you'll see in these revisions. So for HOP, you all familiar with, that's a second mortgage program that offers a city-provided second mortgage in partnership with the banks who offer a first mortgage. We also offer down payment assistance, and that's at 0%, so it gets the cost of that mortgage payment down for folks. The one change in the guidelines that the committee is bringing forward, currently we have a HOP rehab loan so that a home buyer could buy a home that needs some repairs and they can roll that all into that mortgage. Right now, it's a $50,000 forgiven down payment assistance that a borrower can get. And the change that's recommended is to have $25,000 down payment assistance that's forgiven, another $50,000 in down payment assistance that would be paid back when and if the house is sold or transferred in time. And we think that will, or they think, and I agree, that will hopefully incentivize the purchase of existing housing that needs rehab. And we have a number of borrowers who are qualified for $200, a little less, that this might be a good market for them and get some vacant or houses that need rehab back into home ownership, in affordable home ownership. So that's the thinking behind that change. The other change to the HOP program is to add a new component to the program, which we're calling HOP Together, and that's for borrowers who maybe need to spend a little bit more time working with our housing counselors on their credit, budget, savings, So we would ask, or they would agree, if they're interested in this, to spend about a year developing an action plan, and if they're successful, then they may be eligible for additional down payment assistance if it's needed. So that's that, and that'll help those borrowers who need a little more assistance, we hope. Then we have our owner-occupied rehabilitation loans. And really, these loans, there's three components. There's a forgivable loan for folks whose income is less than 50% of area median income. Then if you're 50 to 80%, it's a 2% amortized loan. And then code enforcement, we have a special product for them where the chief code enforcement officer can refer cases for a rehab loan. I'll point out that code enforcement officers always provide information to homeowners about our programs. They don't always take advantage of it. And sometimes, as you all are well aware, code cases can be pretty far gone and dilapidated and require substantial rehab. So the changes that are recommended here are really increases in the maximum amounts. Again, as I mentioned earlier, around cost. So we're asking to increase the maximum for an amortized loan from $85,000 to $100,000. In some instances, we do a rebuild amortized loan. It's very rare, but we're asking to increase that from $100,000 to $150,000. And then for the forgivable loan for those folks earning less than 50%, the maximum is currently $75,000. We're asking that to be increased to $90,000. Our average rehab loan forgivable is about $68,000, and we're seeing cost come in above that, and so that's just where we are. And then for the code enforcement loans, which again are only from referrals from the chief, we're asking, or the board is asking, an increase of $125,000 to $150,000, and if there's a rebuild, from $150,000 to $175,000. Again, the cost of construction, the main driver here. And again, code enforcement forgivable loan is really a tool for code enforcement when folks are along that process and realize that, hey, we better get serious. It gives code enforcement another tool and another way to help those owner occupants if they don't have any other avenues available to them. Some other changes to the owner-occupied rehab loans. Currently, we don't count commission income. We're adding that to the guidelines if it's verifiable and consistent, and that would be consistent with our HOP program. Right now, the liquid asset limit is $40,000. We request that be lowered to $20,000. I think that's just more reasonable. No requirement for housing counseling, adding a requirement for at least one session for homeowners. And then we have a limited assistance grant program that has been at the discretion of finance staff, and we'd like to formalize that and add guidelines. And that is in instances where there is something unforeseen that happens in a rehab project while it's going on or within the first 5 years. This is only for rehab projects for households below 50%, so those forgivable ones. An example, recently we had a project, and while it wasn't included in the scope of work, but while the construction was going on, it was discovered there was serious mold in the insulation under the house. And so that was like I think about a $4,000 or $5,000 hit. Did not have enough contingency. So as you all, if you've ever done any rehab to an existing house, these things can happen. So we'd like to have that ability to address those issues when they do come, again, only at the recommendation of our senior rehab tech, their construction person. And So those are the reasons why the Loan Review Board's bringing that forward, as I've explained. Finally, well, close to finally, our rental rehab incentive loan, which is a loan, again, for small investors who can acquire and rehab a vacant house and put it into affordable rental. It's a 20-year term. The rents are only home high rents, and it's for folks who are 80% or below. We'd like to increase the maximum loan from $125,000 to $200,000, and just a small improvement. If the tenant is in a special population, disabled, a victim of domestic violence, or formerly incarcerated, we waive the $250 application fee. We'd like to do that at the end of the loan from the final draw, because we don't know who the tenant's going to be until after the project is completed, and just a little cleanup there. Finally, our down payment assistance guidelines. Those guidelines have been just for the home program. We did not require any housing counseling. We'd like to require housing counseling and include source of funds for all of our available funds, general funds, CDBG, and home. Restricting it only to our home federal funds doesn't allow us to provide down payment assistance for all of the loan products that we're able to work with. This down payment assistance is only for non-HOP loans. So we work sometimes with banks who have a special mortgage product. As you may recall from a previous city council meeting, we're going to start participating in the North Carolina Housing Finance Community Partnership Lending Pool Program, which is a mortgage program that uses home funds, and so we can't use down payment home funds. We can't match. So this will give us more flexibility there. And that is the walkthrough of all those changes. I'm happy to answer any questions or try.
We have participated with North Carolina Housing Finance in years past. I mean, haven't we?
We have not participated in this community partnership loan program, this mortgage program.
Is this new?
It's, they've had it for a few years. They haven't had it for their whole existence. I don't recall how many, but it will be new for us.
Well, just an observation, it certainly looks like the Loan Review Committee that we appoint from this group have really done a yeoman's job.
Indeed.
Because that's some very sweeping changes, all positive.
Yes, sir.
Thank you,
have.
ma'am.
It's a good group.
Anybody else?
Quick, the changes, will it affect those who are already in the program? Or are these changes basically for people that are coming in now?
It will affect, once you all adopt the changes, it will affect any loans that close after you adopt them. So if someone is in the application process, then they would be able to have these increases as long as their loan hasn't been approved.
Okay.
And we have 13 pre-qualified borrowers, so they would all be eligible for these increases.
Okay, good deal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you, Suzanne. Okay. Tony, is that it?
That's it.
Okay, well, I'll see everybody here in 8 hours. With that, we stand adjourned.
Yeah.